if you're building the experience, you really need to consider all aspects of the experience. And that's the R&D process. The fun thing about what I do is I actually get to develop not only what that expectation is, I also get to develop the process and the actual product.
Welcome to the Ignite Culinary 360 podcast. I'm Chef Robert.
I'm Chef Ryan.
And I'm Chef Luke.
And today I'm really excited to have Chef Kaylah Farina on the podcast with us. I met Kaylah approximately 3 years ago as she was designing her kitchen for Bar S Sigma Foods, their R&D kitchen, and also presentation kitchen here in the Phoenix area. She's had a really remarkable journey from wanting to be a chef from a young age to actually getting a finance degree and then going to culinary school and really transitioning from her original plan into an R&D chef. Now let's hear it from Kaylah. Welcome, Kaylah. We're glad you're a part of the podcast here.
Thank you for asking me.
We met, I think, is it about 3 years ago now?
Yeah. Wow. Has it been that
I know,
long?
time
Yes,
flies,
it has.
yeah. Because you were in the other Sigma Bar S building.
We were designing this one.
Right. You were working with a consultant and he wanted you to come over and look at a couple of pieces of equipment. And that's kind of where it started.
Yep. You're trying to sell me on AltoSham.
Imagine that.
Shocker.
And I don't know, we just started chatting and having good talks about where or how you got into culinary, how you got into R&D and all that. So why don't you share with our listeners your culinary journey?
Sure. It's been a long one. No, when I was about 12, I found the CIA. So the good one. So the Culinary Institute. I always forget about the other one until I say I was in the CIA, and everybody was like, "What?" And
Wait a minute.
I know.
How many bad guys did you catch?
Yeah.
There's weapons all around, so I mean, they're not that different.
That's true. That's very true.
But yeah, so I found the CIA when I was 12. I went to a college fair when I was in junior high because I was one of those nerdy kids. I had to know where I was going to college before I was in high school. And so I found this amazing, beautiful building that everybody just got to cook. And I loved to cook from a young age. I kind of became the family cook at like 7 or 8 because parents split and I became the home cook. So I got tired of TV dinners and it was one of those things. So going through high school, I just kind of assumed like, hey, I'm going to go to the CIA after high school. And so I started taking summer culinary courses at like the Paso Robles Culinary Academy that they used for the high school students. And so I would do that every summer. And then I worked at a cafe, and senior year is when I switched everything. And I was like, hey, I want to open a restaurant eventually. I don't like the idea of trusting my finances with somebody else. So I'm going to go do business instead first and then go to culinary school. And so I ended up working at a cafe and ran their entire catering department. Then I introduced a cake line and I introduced a barbecue line. We kind of grew that thing outside of what they initially had. It was just like a little sandwich shop. And we made it so much more because I just like any idea, they just let me run with it.
That's cool.
So I ended up heading up catering for the Santa Cruz Shakespeare Festival every summer. And it was a blast.
That's awesome.
It was so fun. I got to go, like, I would, get everything out for the intermissions. And then I would just like go sit on little sides and get to watch all the Shakespeare, shows. And I know
awesome.
This much of Midsummer Night's Dream, like the back of my hand, because it's all I could see every day. But it was a blast. And so left the economics program to go do culinary at CIA, and then ended up teaching economics to get myself through culinary. So it worked out. And then met my husband at CIA. So he came in to do more like the fine dining route is where he ended up. And then I kind of came in with the idea that I was going to, go through this program and leave and open a restaurant. And then as soon as we were graduating with our associates, they welcome to the culinary science program, and they were just introducing it. And so they were posting all these things, and my husband actually found it and showed me, and he was like, hey, this program sounds really cool. Do you want to do it? And so we went in kind of as the inaugural class. And it was just such a delightful, realization that my two worlds could collide, because I was such a math and science nerd anyway. And so that I fact that I could, combine my love of science and my love of food into one amazing, awesome career is just, that was mind blowing.
Yeah.
That's
So,
awesome.
so we went through the program, and when we graduated, we had joined, Research Chefs Association and the Institute of Food Technologists when we were students. And so a lot of the connections I made at the conferences as students, they very much helped me in the beginning of my career. I met Jessica Goldstein from New Spice. She was a new product seasoning out of, at the time, Hackensack, New Jersey. And so she ended up giving me my first job working with them, doing custom seasoning development. And then from there, I went on and started working in gluten-free and allergy-free baking, which is very
Nice.
different from what I'm doing right
Wow.
now.
Yeah.
But I had a baking background prior to culinary, so it worked out, and I learned so much about functional ingredients, because to make something gluten-free palatable to people who are not gluten-free is a challenge. And no, it was a blast. It was a really cool product. It was, vegetable first on the label. So you got to learn about, inherent moisture migration from vegetables. And so that killed all of the negative attributes from a standard gluten-free item. And it was a really, really cool environment because, we were so small. We would take it to all of these consumer shows. And so if we had something new, as R&D, I could go out and do these shows on the weekends and go talk to the actual consumer of the product and get to hear from all these parents like how thankful they were for the product, because not only did their kids love it because they were delicious, but they loved it because there were 40% vegetable and their kids didn't know that. And
Yeah.
it's just, it was
Wow.
so
Sneaking
cool.
in
It was
those
so
vegetables.
fulfilling. Yeah. To hear from all of those parents and all the kids and getting to see like, oh, we love it. We eat it every day. And it's such an integral part of their diet because they were celiac and, all these things that they usually couldn't get, easy lunchbox snacks. So that was really cool. And we were super tiny, like I said. So, I did everything from like ideation and benchtop all the way up to scaling up. I helped do the food photography for the packaging, and it was a blast. You got to see every little, piece of it,
Right.
and then getting to go do this consumer show. So it was A to Z.
Were these products available like in like grocery stores, or was it more?
Yeah, so it was called Garden Lights at the time. Now it's called Veggies Made Great.
Okay.
So they're in Costco.
Nice.
They were chocolate. They were the chocolate muffins. They had blueberry oat, banana chocolate chip, and then they had we introduced superfood veggie cakes at the time, which now Costco I want to say still has them. A few of them I can still kind of see them,
Okay.
but they're like these little vegetable pucks. So they're perfect little side dishes. You could either pop in the microwave, or I used to do the toaster oven so that it'd get a little crispy.
Nice.
And then they just started introducing some frittata items. The last thing I developed with them right before I left was a cranberry orange muffin, and
Okay.
I believe that's still part of the product catalog. The first thing I developed with them, which was a really cool challenge, was actually a waffle, and they ended up launching it right after I left. So it was cool to get to see
Wow.
it go, the
Yeah.
whole process. And I don't think those are still in production anymore, which is sad because they were so good. But that's kind of how it goes, right? I mean,
Yeah.
you spend 40 plus iterations on this product, and then you get it out, and it doesn't always hit like you want it to, or the cycle's not right, and so
Yeah.
Right.
it doesn't end up surviving, which is always so sad. But it was so much learning. I learned a ton about egg replacement, about functional ingredients, and so it was the avian flu crisis, and so I had to make all of our products egg free.
Oh, wow.
And of
Yeah.
course, by time I made them egg free, crisis was averted.
Over.
So
Yeah.
everything was fine. So it was quite. I still have like my note. It was like a solid notebook. It was just every iteration and all the learnings. It had to have been like 40 to 50 iterations of stuff. It
Wow.
was
Wow.
so many iterations.
The fun life of R&D.
I know
Yeah.
all the background stuff people don't think about. I got so sick of looking at muffins.
No, I bet. Yeah. You still have like flashbacks when you go in the grocery store. You're like,
Yeah,
Oh no.
exactly.
I think there's a certain satisfaction of like working through that whole process though. I mean, I will say I have some experience doing some of that work. I was sort of adjacent. I did R&D as well, but It wasn't necessarily the route that you did it. And I loved those days where, you're trying out over and over and over, and it's just like make one manipulation to one ingredient at a time, and working through the whole process of like, what if I do this, like I think this is going to fail, but I'm going to do it anyway just to make sure, like to prove that it's actually going to fail.
Just to check the box.
Yeah, it's like,
Yep.
okay, yeah, now I know exactly what's going to happen if we do this. But there was for me, there was a certain level of satisfaction of like, I have thought through everything, right? At least everything I can possibly think of. And then things that other people have thought of, and we've tried everything, and we know what's going to happen with this product if we do all of these different iterations. And
Exactly.
I don't know. It was fun. I loved that.
You really have to put on the cap of the mindset of it's not a failure. You're just
Mhm.
learning what doesn't work.
Yeah.
It's not a failure because you're going towards what will work. And so
Right.
you'll find it eventually. It might take, 2 iterations, it might take 10, it might take 50.
Yeah. Right.
You're going to hate it by time you get to 50, but
Yeah, 100%. And it's like there's so many people too with their opinion on what it should be like.
yes.
Oh yeah, absolutely.
And then you sit there and you're like, here it is. This is exactly what you guys told me. And they're like, nope, this is this way. Nope, we need it this way. Nope, we need more
Yeah.
here and here and here. And it's just like,
Right.
cool. I'll go back and try it again.
Yep.
But I think that's also a part of the process too, though, because you're working with people, and I can only assume, but you're probably working with people that aren't R&D chefs, right? And then you're trying to bring them along the process, or at least bring them up in the end. Like, all right, we've done all of this work. This is where we've landed. This is what our recommendation is, or this is what we think is best, or whatever. And then they get the fast track of without having to do any of the work, right? Like they then start to understand, like, all right, this is what it could be. But then they develop their own next level of opinion, and so then it would, at least for us, it would drive us into, okay, well, we did this, we developed exactly what we planned on developing, but now we have a different target, and we need to go develop the same product, but in a slightly different way.
Yes.
Right.
And that happened a lot.
Yeah. It's one of the many reasons why a lot of people don't get along with chefs.
Uh-huh.
Because we don't get along with anybody
Wait,
else.
really?
Uh-huh.
That's why my dating life is so
Oh.
bad. Like I hear bad things about chefs. I'm like, no, I'm cool. Don't worry about it.
Don't worry about it. Wait a minute. Can you go eat that somewhere else?
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I mean, it was the good thing again, the last company was so small. So it was really easy for us to come to get like consensus of, yeah, it's great. It's delicious. Let's go, take it to consumers
Right.
and see and get some feedback and kind of let them drive, that feedback. But,
Yeah.
where I am now, this is a massive company and we have, a ton of different departments that pop in, to the kitchen, whether they're part of the cutting or not. They'll just like
Right.
pop in because we have a window, which I did purposefully because I like people to come by and say like, hey, what are you working on? And let accounting feel connected to the stuff that we're making as a company.
Yeah.
Because it's really easy to get disconnected from, you're just plugging in numbers. It doesn't matter what
The
company you're
outside
doing
world.
for. Well, yeah, exactly. But
It's
also
true,
like the
though.
end goal, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Because my favorite thing about my job is when I'm in an Uber, right? Driving from the airport to all the millions of places that I go, the topic always comes up. What do you do? And I love being able to say like, oh, I'm a research chef. I'm a food scientist. And they're like, what is that? And the whole drive is
Right.
that. And it's just the easy thing of every item you see in the grocery store. A chef likely had their hands in it at
Yeah.
some point of the process, right? And it's a lot of people just don't think about that. So it's really cool just to even help people connect that little thing.
That's a very interesting point. Like the people who open up the lays aren't thinking about, oh, a machine made this. That's it. That's how they came up with it. So
Yeah.
put stuff in a computer and it came up with the flavor. It's like, no, there is a chef behind the scenes that actually made that barbecued flavor to make it taste like, I don't know, Pizza Hut's barbecue pizza or something. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, there's
Right.
people actually doing that in there. Then you also think about how many Pizza Hut pizzas did that person eat to make that lay taste like that?
Yeah. Oh my God. That gold standard flavor or that, that defined flavor of this is the market standard that we're trying to reference. This is what everybody's expectation is going to be.
Right.
And I hit that all the time. We've actually been talking about vocabulary of like, how do we call things? Because like my gold standard is very different than our food
Yeah.
scientist gold standard because
Right.
theirs is the end of the process. Mine is the beginning of the process.
Mhm.
Like it's my reference point. So,
Right.
if I have a customer say, hey, I want to work on a cinnamon roll item. And I'm like, okay, well, for that consumer, what is their expectation when they hear the word cinnamon roll? Where does their mind
Mhm.
go? Right. So typically it's going to be Cinnabon. Whether we like it or
Mhm.
not, it's going to be
Right.
Cinnabon. For somebody who lives in, middle America, it might be the little cafe on the corner who makes their own homemade cinnamon rolls,
Right.
and they're
Uh-huh.
going to be a million times better. But for, coast to coast, it's probably Cinnabon is going to be the go-to, at least in
Mhm.
terms of standard expectation and something that you're going to see in food service. So
Yeah.
then it's hitting the flavor profile. It's hitting our stuff are all roller grill burritos is what I usually work on. And so then it's taking the mindset of what a burrito is out of the picture and
Mhm.
figuring out how can we relay the experience of a cinnamon roll in this format, and trying to get to that opinion, and then also hearing all the varying opinions that are in the office of like, oh well, I think of this note, I think of this note, oh it doesn't hit this, and but it's a burrito, there's a tortilla, it's not a cinnamon roll. Like, get
Right.
out of it, because there's
Right.
always those who
Yeah.
can't get past that,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
little tortilla of, this is a burrito, it's not a cinnamon roll.
Close your eyes. It's
I
Close
okay.
your
know,
eyes.
exactly.
Everything's fine. It's a burrito. It's a burrito sin.
So yeah, I mean, it's a
Mm.
different environment, but it's still like, I like building those connections between, the people who usually wouldn't have their hand in the process, and then bringing them
Mhm.
into the process.
So what are the steps for you? Because you said food scientist, right? So
Mhm.
you have to come up with a flavor of something and then bring it to the food scientist, and then they have to like put it into a liquid or powder, or like how does that work?
So in some companies, that's how it is. In some
Yeah.
companies, concepts start with a chef, and then their culinary department make, like, if you want to think of like tikka masala, right? Because I
Mhm.
believe Lay's did a tikka masala chip at
Yeah,
one
they
point.
did. Yeah.
And
Yep.
Yep.
so if you think of tikka masala, they likely had their chefs. I know PepsiCo has chefs because I'm friends with one of them. So they have their chefs and they make that dish. They
Okay.
make the gold standard. Here is a amazing tikka masala. And, sometimes you can go out to a dozen restaurants and get standard tikka masalas and say like, okay, of all of what we, tried, what's similar between all of them?
That key note.
Exactly. Is
Yeah.
it, what's hitting us first? Are we getting a chicken fat flavor? Are we
Mhm.
getting more of a brothy note? Are we getting a particular spice? Are we getting a curry? Or like, what is coming visually to us? What is
Yeah.
coming flavor wise to us? Where does it hit on the palate? What order does it hit on the palate? Like, all of those things you really have to consider. What is the aftertaste? How long does it linger? So,
That's crazy.
yeah, right?
I would never have thought about that. Like the aftertaste, like
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
does it linger for like 30 seconds or is it a minute? Like that
Exactly.
blows my mind.
And what
Good.
component is actually lingering, right? Is it the flavor that's
Uh-huh.
lingering? Is it the capsicum that's lingering? Like, what is actually hitting you? And where is it hitting?
I always just say that it's the cumin.
Yeah. Does it sit on the palate? Does it sit in the throat? Like, there's a million different questions you can ask,
Yeah,
right? So
that's
it's,
blind blowing.
if you're building the experience, you really need to consider all aspects of the experience.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And so typically at that point, a food scientist would come in, take it, steal it, and then they would run away and make their little, make the fluffy bunny into like an angry army bunny. And then they would take it to the plant, and that angry army bunny would become like this, tin can looking like machine. And they would just start, marching out of a conveyor belt. And that's the R&D process.
Right.
Wow.
We make something fluffy and fun, and then it comes out, angry but replicable.
Mhm.
And so that's generally the process. The fun thing about what I do is I actually get to develop not only what that expectation is, but I also get to develop the process and the actual product. And then I get to help sometimes go to the plant to scale it up. And then sometimes I just help hand over all documentation and connect the suppliers to the plant, and, help bring in ingredients. And then they send the plant production product to me to reevaluate and say, does this hit what my expectation was? Does this hit the benchtop, product that I made? Does it mimic it? Is it replicable? So I actually get to do the whole thing, which is really
Crazy.
cool. And
That's
that's
awesome.
because of that culinary science program. So I have food science training for a chef. So it allows me to be that middle person and kind of do the entire process, which is fun. I enjoy that process.
So I want to ask you about the factory, but in a second, just so our listeners know, we're actually in your um, R&D kitchen right now here in Phoenix. We're doing the episode from your kitchen, but where is your factory then, and how do you move things from Phoenix to the factory?
So we have 4 different plants in Oklahoma. Those are our meat plants. There we make all of our hot dogs, sausages, deli meats, bacon. Um, I should probably mention that I now work for Sigma because I don't think we ever got to that part. Here we go.
We
Sigma
all
Food
knew this, but
Service.
now
I
our
know,
listeners know.
So now, yeah, so we do hot dogs, sausages, deli meats, bacon, corn dogs, and then we have a smattering of other brands. So we have the food brand, we have La Norteñita brand, Menú del Sol, Lechona, Longmont. Those are all the Hispanic brands that we have. We now just acquired Los Altos cheese. So we have Los Altos cheese, which is out of Los Altos, California. All of our other cheeses for the Hispanic side is in Darlington, Wisconsin, because you're making cheese where cheese should be made. And
There
then
you go.
right? And then Richmond, Virginia is for our Fiorucci plant. That's our European heritage. So all the salumi, charcuterie. We bring in the prosciutto from Italy now. But yeah, so
Nice.
what I
That's awesome.
do, most of what I do is on Sigma Foodservice side. And so that is burritos, taquitos. We're now doing little bites, and most of the products that I develop are produced in our Linares, Mexico plant.
Cool.
Okay.
So Sigma's a global company. Our global headquarters is in Monterrey, Mexico. So sometimes I'll go down there and take them the formula and help them, um, do it benchtop in their kitchen, especially if it's a meat item. You can't send samples of meat products back and forth over the border.
Right.
So I used to go and actually make it with them, and then we would take it to the plant and scale it up together. Now I really only go to the plant if like multiple iterations are needed in the plant.
Hmm.
But when we built this kitchen, one of the cool things that we were able to do is we actually brought in like a miniature steam kettle. So in our plant, we have a giant, I call it like a 2-foot steam kettle. Like it's massive. You need like to take stairs to get to the top of it.
Mhm.
And
Mhm.
so, we can make thousands of pounds of filling at one time. And so I have a mini version that's I think it's like a 50 pound. So I can make the same version here. So essentially, when I scale up from like a 1 pound thing in a pot on a stove, I can then take it to our little kettle, and pretty much anything that goes wrong from 1 pound to 50 pound is you can fix in that. As long as it can make that transition, you should be able to go from like 50 to 1,000, no problem.
Okay. Oh, that's good.
So yeah, so now I make the fillings here, and then I usually send like a very thorough process. Like you need to be able to give it to somebody who basically blindfolded. They have no idea what you've done, what the
Mhm.
process is. They should be able to read it and clearly follow it and then give you exactly what you made, right? Without you
Right.
having to walk them through. Here's what the steps are. Here's what you look for. If there's a visual cue or a temperature that you need to watch for, I always make sure those are noted. And then I also like to film it. So I have a whole camera set up so I can like set it from above and film the process, and we can speed through all the crazy mixing.
Uh-huh.
But just hit the big milestones that they need to look for, and then when they're in the kitchen, they can review if I can send a sample of the product. They review the formula, the process, the video, etc. They know what to do, and then they make it in the kitchen themselves. Kind of get their hands dirty and get to see each of those transition moments in person, and then they can take
Mhm.
it to the plant and scale it up. So I don't have to go as much anymore.
That's nice.
So you actually have two kitchens, if I'm understanding this right, and the way
Mhm.
we've worked is you have the kitchen that you just talked about for developing and scaling up.
Yep.
And then the kitchen that we're in right now is where you bring your customers in and you can then heat up or cook that product that they want to taste in many different types of ovens so that you're giving them an option of different ways to heat it up, or they already have all of these one type of oven throughout their system, and now they're understanding how that food tastes coming out of the same oven that they have. Is that correct?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so we have, our test kitchen, which is the other kitchen, very stainless. Everything is wipeable, which is very important. And it kind of goes through. We've got 6 different stations in there, so it kind of goes through the raw side, development side, and then I try to keep the back station to just be packaging, so all RTE stuff on the back. That's where you get the view. So you get rewarded for all your hard work. And so the kettle is in there because you're obviously cooking. I don't mind filming in there. And then in here, I try to, which is why we have, beautifully colored and tiled walls, and it's much more presentation, little fancier.
Mhm.
Again, still the gorgeous view. And then we've got presentation screens, and then we have all the whole hotline is in here so that we could either use it for filming, use it for cooking, or use it for a demo purpose. So I don't have to bring like just a single induction burner in here if I want to do a presentation.
Nice.
So we'll have buyers come in for our customers and do big product presentations for them, big cuttings. We have a roller grill, a fryer, a double combi alto sham, of course, and then we have we have a Vulcan range, and then we have the alto sham Vector. Love that thing. It's like my favorite discovery. I'm so glad you guys introduced me to it. It's so cool. And then the Turbo Chef, which is very common in a lot of C stores, which is one of our biggest customers. And then I also have an at-home Ninja air fryer because even though I can do super awesome air frying in the Vector, nobody's going to have that for home use. And so if we're doing something like any of our bites that we're going to not only sell in the food service channel, but also sell in the retail channel, I try to replicate what people are going to do at home. So I have a commercial microwave in this kitchen, but I go to the break room and pop it into our standard microwave because that's what somebody's going to have at home.
Yeah.
We have the Ninja air fryer because I also take that to food shows. But we test all the burritos, the bites, any kind of cook up, even sausages. We'll throw it in there because a lot of people you have to consider if it's a teenager coming home from school and they want an after school snack, they're just going to pop it in the air fryer. Like it used to be the microwave was the common. And I really feel like everything is going pure air fryer at this point.
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
And I don't have one at home and I need to jump on the bandwagon. I've been like fighting it to my core. I don't want an air fryer, but they're so cool. Like you can do a lot of stuff with it.
Do you ever play pranks on people and like reheat up fish in the break room and be like, it's for an experiment?
No.
I would do that.
Cruel.
Ryan would definitely do that.
It's for a new hot pocket.
No, my mother used to do that. We talked about that less than a month ago because she doesn't smell like really strong smells easily. She's got very little sense of smell. And she used to microwave fish. She'd microwave broccoli. She'd microwave all this stuff. And then finally one of her coworkers was like, hey,
can you stop?
Can you not?
Can you not do that?
It's like, oh, does it smell? She's like, you smell it through the whole floor. Like the entire building smells. Oh my God.
I once worked with a guy in a kitchen and he was a food scientist, but for a baking company. We kind of shared a similar kind of common room, and there was a kitchen that he worked out of on one side and then a kitchen that I worked out of on the other side. And so I'm doing my work over here, but he would roast broccoli all the time. And it was like giant batches of broccoli because he would like cook it and then eat it the whole week. And at one point, all of us were just like, dude, you got to cut this out. Or like, can you do this like after or like late in the day? Like something.
It wasn't even for anything. It was for him.
No, it was just for him.
Oh my God.
It was just for him. He was a nice enough guy, but it was like, you got to have a little bit of awareness of like what you're doing to the environment and the people around you and
that's hilarious.
What you're putting them through. But no, eventually he did start asking us, hey, is it okay if I do this now? And it was like, I always felt bad. Like I wanted to say no every single time, but I didn't.
But he's got to eat his broccoli, dude.
He's got to eat his broccoli. He was into like ultra marathons and things like that. He was very, very conscious
all the
of
greens.
Everything. Yeah. Oh yeah. He made kale chips. Those don't really smell that much though. So
no, it's just like cauliflower and broccoli.
And asparagus.
Yeah, asparagus is bad.
All right, so I got a funny story about this guy. Same guy. So he's really smart. Actually, extremely smart.
He's going to watch this and he's going to be so mad at you.
Maybe. That's okay. Whatever. I don't mind. If he even remembers, who knows? But anyway, so we had this like step challenge at the office that we were in. And it was like, everybody had like a pedometer or something like you'd wear or like a watch that would, count all your steps. So he figured that if he attached the little step counter thing to a KitchenAid mixer, or was it like a commercial
you were going to go
mixer?
for the KitchenAid.
And every time it went around, it counted a step.
Did it really?
And it was just like, totally. It was amazing. I mean, the guy also ran too. So the guy's like running on the weekends and the
Huh.
evenings, and he's like running this thing. I mean, it was, I forget how many tens of thousands of steps it
Like,
said
how's
he
this guy
took.
doing a
It's
million steps a
hilarious.
day? He's sitting in his
Yeah.
office cooking broccoli.
Yeah.
It's pretty good. Yeah. He got
brilliant.
busted, so he didn't win, but it was impressive.
What's the most difficult thing you had to like make and get transferred over to like
There you go.
something crazy?
That's tough.
It's like asking a chef, "What's your favorite thing to cook?"
I know.
Yeah.
What's your favorite child?
Who's your favorite kid?
Oh, goodness.
Don't ask me that question.
Well, I guess in this case it'd be who's your most difficult child. So
Yeah.
it's not as bad.
Yeah. Right. Chances are they know it too.
So I'd say the first thing that I developed for Sigma is actually a chili cheese dog burrito. So speaking of getting out of the idea of what a burrito is, right? So because people always
Right.
hear that and they go, huh? But it's been, I'd say probably our biggest item for the food service division from the roller grill side. It's great. It's a full length all beef frank with an all beef chili and diced cheddar cheese wrapped in a tortilla with a chili seasoning on the outside. And it's awesome. But taking it to the plant and getting them to extrude the fill, which is just the chili and the cheese, and then have somebody place the frank and then get it to where it's like, even, and then get them to do the rolling procedure and understand like, yes, it's going to be tight, but the frank gives you the length that you need. So just wrap it around it. And there's all these little things that it was just kind of like, oh, we can't do that. I'm like, yeah, you can. There's a gap right there. Just put a frank down. Like, it's not that hard. So, and now we're the only ones in the market that do that. And so, it's really, really cool of like, we can get to go out and say, it's not just a chili cheese dog burrito because there's little cut up pieces. It's a whole full length frank. You get the entire experience of a chili cheese dog on the go. So it's a mess free chili dog on the go, which is not something you can usually say. You can eat it going down the road.
Right.
And you're not going to have chili all over you. It's the greatest.
Man, you're going to be seeing me in my car eating them during the summer, and I'm just going to have them on my dashboard heating up. Driving down the highway with my chili cheese burrito.
I have to say, as the conscience of my own heart, please don't do that.
Yeah.
Ryan's driving with his knee,
Oh, man.
one in each hand.
Oh, God.
Jeez.
I had a buddy who, those mac and cheese packets that like come frozen.
Mac and cheese packets?
We would use it, and you'd like do mac and cheese and like do a slit in it and then like throw it in for like a kid's meal in a restaurant.
Huh. Okay.
It was like prepackaged. Anyways, I had a buddy who during the winter would take them and put him on his heater as he was driving in his car and rip it open and eat it like that.
That's not the way it's intended to be used, Ryan.
I didn't do it. Don't look at me.
Yeah, I had a friend.
I've seen a bunch of people put stuff on the engine,
Yeah.
close the hood, and then when they get to their destination, their stuff is hot. Like, I've seen it. So, I mean, it happens.
It makes sense. I mean, it's a
I'm not gonna-
defroster. You're just defrosting mac and cheese. It's already,
That's true. It's already
Ready to eat.
RTE at that point, right?
yeah.
Technically. You're just bringing it to the temperature that's edible.
Yeah. And then you just cut a slit in it and you're just driving down the road and you're just
Slurping mac and cheese.
squeezing it in your mouth.
Oh, man.
That's a great
this
idea
was totally
too. A
Ryan.
Slurpee mac and cheese.
Ryan said this was his friend. This was totally Ryan.
Whatever, dude. I just eat it frozen still, like a candy bar.
A little crunchy.
Oh, goodness gracious. It's giving me ideas, though. Dangerous.
If I remember correctly, the prior location that you had, you didn't even have a commercial kitchen. You had like a home range, and you had to share
It
a
was so
room with
bad.
other
Oh,
people
wow.
or something. If I remember
Yeah.
what you told me.
So we didn't have a test kitchen because we didn't need one. Like, at the time, the company didn't do, benchtop development. We did all of our innovation in the plants. So we would, go and do whatever test. It was usually just like a seasoning test or you're switching out a phosphate or, switching out all these different things, but you would do it in line because the rest of the formula worked. So you would just test to see, is it a 1-for-1? Does it work? Do we need some tweaking? But they would do it at this massive scale in the plants. And so I started, when I first joined, I started with a company doing project management. And that was because my old company was super small. So I knew the whole product development process, everything from, ideation to launch, everything that was needed. And so I was hired to come in and manage the development process and the new product process. And then it was 2018. They were having issues matching a seasoning for a frank for one of the food service items. And so they were trying to match one of the national competitors, and they couldn't get the flavor right. There was just something that was missing. And they were like, you have seasoning background, come help us. And we went there and we matched it in like 2 days. And so
nice.
they were like, yeah, you're doing development now. So I started traveling back and forth to Oklahoma because we were partnered with OSU. And so I would go use the QA lab at OSU. And after enough times, and that year I spent the week before Christmas in Oklahoma doing my last minute Christmas shopping, shoving it in my suitcase, trying to come back like last minute. And like it was scarves for everybody because it was small and it could get packed really easily. But yeah, so I came back and I was like, this is insane. So I, told my boss, I'm like, for the budget of 1 or 2 of my trips, I could literally just fill our kitchen with all the benchtop equipment that we need, and I don't have to travel anymore. And so he was like, cool, let's do it. And so I stole our break room. Like it was literally the break room. And we had like it was a wraparound counter. The craziest thing that we would do is heat up hot dogs in the microwave and do like, internal taste tests to evaluate like, hey, is anything changing? Is it still good? Does it still taste the same? We'd make bacon. We'd do, weekly cuttings. But again, it was deli meat and sausages. So it really wasn't that bad. We had a George Foreman grill for grilling sausages, and we had a little electric skillet to make bacon, and we would just do it on the countertop. So when I started doing development there, I pissed a lot of people off because I would shut the break room. Like I would close the door. There was like a window for the sink. People. I would like shut the window. I made a stop sign, which I'm sure was a little extra, but like I literally made a sign with a hand that said stop, meeting in progress, because I would have cuttings and meetings, and somebody would just open the door and come in and wash a dish or cut an apple and then start chatting like, what are you guys doing? I'm like, get out. Like we're in a meeting.
This is an actual space. Yeah.
Yeah.
Did you set off the smoke alarm a lot too?
I would blow a lot of fuses. We would blow a ton of fuses because it was never like nobody plugged in. Every single outlet in that kitchen, I want to say there was like 7 of them. Everyone was tied to one GCI,
like one breaker.
GFI, whatever it is. It's a breaker, like one. So if one would trip, all of them would trip. And so the second I would plug in a roller grill on one side of the kitchen, all I would have to do is plug in an air fryer on the other or a skillet out. The whole kitchen would be out, and I would have to wait for them to come and reset everything. And so in this kitchen, every single one is its own.
Yeah.
That was like my end all be like every single outlet is on its own. Nothing is blowing. If one trips, it's just that one. I can go. Everything is clearly labeled in the break box. I just reset it. No big deal. Like I am not dealing with those issues here anymore.
You at least you had some input on the way it was laid out and all that too. So that's always nice, right?
Yeah, that was so cool. I got to really like be super involved in the entire development and design of this kitchen, of the test kitchen, the demo kitchen, and I was involved in the design of the entire office, which was really cool. Nice. So like I got to do all the interviews with the different departments. How would you use the space? How do we want it laid out? And the biggest thing for me is flow, because we had such crappy flow there was no flow at the last office because it was never thought of. And so, I kind of designed this kitchen not for the needs of today, but for the needs of what we're going to have in like 10 years. Nice. Because obviously when they designed the last kitchen, or the last office, there was no kitchen because we didn't need one. Yeah. And so, I really kind of, we exploded this place because I wanted to, at the time it was me, it was just me. And now I thankfully have, another chef working with us, but I have 6 stations in there for a reason, because I want to grow the team. enough to be able to, have somebody dedicated to our national brands. I'd like to have somebody dedicated to our Hispanic brands. I'd like to have somebody dedicated
Mhm.
to our European brands. They have their R&D out in Richmond, but from the innovation side, the benchtop, the culinary forward side, I want to have a team member dedicated to each of our major
Yeah.
business units here. So that's the end goal. So I had all that in mind when I kind of built this place out. And then where are we going to do cuttings? We're going to do cuttings in the ideation room. We're going to do cuttings in the conference room. We have the focus group in here. So everything has immediate access to those
Mhm.
points with proper outlets. I have rolling hot boxes. So, if we need them, we can go. If we do internal iHuts or focus groups, it's right here in this room. So I can literally just walk right through, cook the product here, hot hold it in here, and take individual trays, or we could take the entire hot box in. It's so everything was so thought out with what is every use that we could potentially have or currently have for the kitchen, and then how can we make it so that it's a seamless transition and we don't have to struggle with how are we going to get this product onto the other side of the office.
As you were talking about all that, it got me thinking. So, do you guys do any like, I guess, customer based sensory testing there in the facility, or?
Yeah, we do a ton. So we have two different ways. So during COVID, we did a lot of iHuts, which is an in-home use test. So we'll
Mhm.
actually send product to consumers at their homes to try and
Hmm.
to evaluate it. So, take it through the process of how you'd make it at home if you bought it off the shelf, and then tell us your experience. How does it
I'll
taste?
sign up
And,
for that.
how does it cook up? Does it cook up like you'd expect to? Or did you explode your microwave? Like
Right?
what happened?
Do we need to send an electrician?
Exactly. Internally, we'll do everything from just like a paper concept focus group, talking to them about, up on a presentation, here's all these different concepts. Here's kind of a generic image of what it could look like. What are your thoughts? And then we'd also do actual product focus groups. So we'll bring them in. We can do either initial iteration or stuff that comes out of the plant. So we are
Uh-huh.
a Maricopa County Health Inspected facility, which I'm constantly reminding people of. So we are, which is why it rolls off the tongue, no problem.
Yeah.
And so, we have the health inspector come in. So we are more than set up to bring people in from the public and serve them.
Mhm.
We have to make sure that there's a lot of, SOPs are followed and everybody is under strict training, even the marketing team. Everybody in the marketing team has their food handler's card. If you come into this kitchen, you touch anything in this kitchen, you have your food handler's card. Yeah. So, I mean, it's been really cool to get to see everybody kind of step their game up, because if we want to do these really cool things with the space, we need to make sure
Mhm.
that we're, properly set up to do them.
How do you sign up for the home testing?
um,
Again, he's asking for a friend.
Yeah, asking for a friend on
I have
this
a
one.
I'll
friend
just
that-
slip your name on the list. I don't actually know. Every brand has their own list. They do a lot with influencers too. They've really harnessed the whole social media world, which just goes right over my head. So there's a reason that I like being a hermit in my little kitchen, and the marketing people can go do all the social stuff.
I'll send you my info after the meeting here, and just
Sounds good.
with a
Slip you right
20
on.
on there, $20 bill, good enough.
That
or-
works. That works. Just paper clip it so there's no trace.
Yeah.
Anything else you want to know about the space?
I actually have been there. Do you remember me?
Yes.
I came
Oh,
with
yeah, I
Robert when I
forgot.
first
You were-
started.
yeah, your
yeah.
first
So
week.
wait, hang on.
Yeah.
Are you in Denver?
I'm in
or
Seattle. now.
I'm in Denver.
You were in Denver. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah.
No, I do. Because you had just started.
Yep. And I remember because there was like a leak, like a water leak somewhere. And Robert's like, Ryan,
All the
come
time.
help me. And I'm just like looking out the window. I'm like, "Oh, you're fine. You got this." He's like, "You're supposed to be learning." I'm like, "Yeah, but look at this view, dude."
I know. It's like I love it. I love the view because it's. I told them, like, if you want somebody to walk in and you want to wow them with the space, give me the view.
Yeah.
Because
Mhm.
you
Right.
can't. I mean, on here you can't see much, but hopefully afterwards you can.
Well,
It's like you
yeah,
have the
we'll get some of
entire like North Phoenix Mountains all behind
Yeah.
you.
Wow.
And we're on the 5th floor, so there's buildings and like apartments and stuff, but everything's so low. It's just like a smattering of like rooftops and trees, and then just
Mhm.
mountain, and
Yeah.
it's
Hmm.
stunning.
Yeah,
And I
that's
can
so
see
cool.
the mountain where I live. So that's always my, like, when I have a bad day, I'm like, I will see you soon.
Like, is my husband home? Okay,
Yeah.
good.
Yeah.
Got the binoculars out.
He said he was going to the grocery
Yeah.
store.
That's what Life 360 is for.
Yeah. I totally use that with my kids.
Oh,
So
yeah.
yes, I understand it.
Absolutely.
Is there anything that you are currently developing that you can tell us about, or is that secret?
I mean, they're all secret. Everything is secret. No, I mean, we've got some really cool partnerships going with, some of the leading C stores in the country. I have really good working relationships with the R&D teams from a lot of the big C stores. And that's something I can't stress enough. I mean, it's the same whether you're a chef in a, restaurant or in a hotel or, doing what I do, like your supplier relationships and your customer relationships are everything. And
Mhm.
I get bogged down with email a million times. So the first thing I usually say is, I'm going to give you my cell phone. Please text me if you need anything. I'm going to call you. I'm not going to email you because I prefer the one-on-one, communication. It's more personal that way. I get to know people that way. And then
It's more
if I
efficient
need
too.
exactly, but also, if we're in the plant and like we're dealing with right now, we're scaling something up and we have things that have like an 8-week lead time. And I just call my sales guy like, hey, how you doing? How the kids? Great. Anything we can do about that lead time? And I can get things usually, brought up and get things in sooner, especially if it's just for a test. Like sometimes I can get, a sample size of something like a 50-pound bag that they'll just like ship us because they know the end volume that we're going to be ordering from them is astronomical compared to, a single 50.
Mhm.
So yeah, like those relationships are everything. So yeah. So I mean, for the partnerships, I do a lot of co-development, and which is really fun. I'll have them here. Sometimes I'll go to their kitchen, but it's neat to be able to start with, the paper concept and then go through the entire process and then bring them in for each tasting. And it's like, okay, cool. Love it. Love everything about it. Tweak this piece, this piece, this piece. And then it's literally a lever. Like it's kind of like if you're in a recording studio and you have all of those little buttons that you can like,
Uh-huh.
move something up, move something down. That's exactly how formulation is,
Mhm.
it's all those little notes, especially when you start thinking about, again, how it hits the palate, when it hits the palate, and all of those things, the difference between, a whole piece of a pinto bean versus a slightly ground piece, slightly, versus like a puree or, fully
Mhm.
mashed, how it hits on the palate, how it hit flavor wise, how it carries flavor. Like there's so many nuances that a lot of times we just don't think about. So getting
Yeah.
super granular into developing something that's got to be replicable, but also from a food service side, I always try to say food service has to be craveable.
Mhm.
Whereas in retail, you're already in the store. Half the time, you already know the brand you're going to get when you go there. People go to the store with
Right.
lists. I'm one of them. I
Yeah.
map
Mhm.
my grocery list by the store so I don't have to make more than one route. Like I know my route, I know what I'm hitting. And I'm an outside of the store. I'm a perimeter buyer. Like I buy on the outside of the store. I don't usually frequent the center of the store. But I know a lot of our customers are more center of the store. So I try to take field trips to the grocery store and make it fun and, go aisle by aisle and go see what's new with flavor profiles, what's new with packaging
Mhm.
and, all those different things. So,
Yeah.
um, but yeah, so getting to, do that whole process with a partner and getting them to come in and helping, tweak them and then getting to see your little baby take flight, and go out into the world and, getting positive feedback or especially for the C stores, I can go to the C stores around our area and,
Mhm.
just start asking people, hey, have you tried it? Do you like it? And, if we see things on the roller that's ours, I'll typically buy a couple and then ask the people who are working there, have you tried it? And if not, I'll give it to them. Like, here,
Mhm.
try it. And,
Yeah.
if you like it, promote it, because
Mhm.
it's better for us and it's better for them. They get more people in the door. But yeah, for food service, it's got to be craveable because you have to try something and then go, wow, I'm going to remember that. And then when you're driving down the road the next time, go, ooh, I'm not going to go to this, gas station because it's closer. I'm going to go the extra mile and go to that one because they had that one roller thing that I tried and I loved it. And I'm going to go
Mhm.
get that.
Yeah.
So it has to pull them back. It's like the Michelin guide for food service, right?
Right.
So
Mhm.
retail, you're already there, but for food service, like it's got to be worth that extra drive or worth that destination. Your food has to be the destination.
Yeah, definitely.
I like how when we started out this conversation, you wanted to be a restaurant chef and how it has gone so different and you fell
Yeah.
into your big old tub of jelly. Perfect job for you. But, isn't it crazy that, I think all of us in culinary school, it's like, oh yeah, we're going to be this restaurant chef. And then you don't even know that some of these jobs exist.
I know.
And you just kind of stumble into them and it's like, oh yeah, I like this. This is actually a much better fit for me.
I know. And if I had gone to culinary school right after high school, like I was going to, I would have missed the program completely. You know what I mean? Like I probably wouldn't have even gone that route at all. I wouldn't have met my husband because I met my husband at first day of school at the CIA outside of our first class. Like it was, it was just meant to be.
Wow.
Both of us were supposed to have gone to the California campus for one reason or another. Both of us decided to go to the New York campus, start same day. And it was just everything aligned. I started there 2 days after I graduated from Santa Cruz. So, and it was because they were switching programs over and I wanted to be part of the old program. And so I literally graduated, packed my stuff, half of it got shipped, half of it went back home, caught a plane, came here, moved or, went to New York, moved in, started the next day.
Nice.
No summer break for me.
Right.
No time off.
No, but it was so worth it. I constantly remind him he's the best thing that came out of that school.
Oh.
But I'm pretty happy with my career.
Yeah. That's awesome.
It worked out.
So I'm a CIA graduate as well. I'm like Robert mentioned. I mean, I went there thinking I was going to open a restaurant someday. I got out into the real world and realized, no, I don't want to open my own restaurant. I want somebody else to have the restaurant, but I want to manage the kitchen and manage the menu and write the menu, and then kind of weaved my way into R&D. So, but yeah, if they had that program there, I mean, I'm pretty sure that I would have been convinced to do it. I would have loved to have done it.
It was so cool. It was, I mean, and it was really it was fun. It was exclusive because you had to interview to get into the program. I think they only accepted 12 of us or 20 of us. It was super small. And then we slowly, dwindled from there. But it was the only program that they had introduced that you had to interview. And they looked at your whole resume and what do you want to do with your life? And, it was like a job interview and a college interview all at the same time. But
Right.
it was really, really cool. And, a lot of it was student driven because we were basically the guinea pigs of the program and they didn't know what they were doing. Most of the things that we were, cooking in that class, none of those recipes worked. And then our grades got docked because none of those recipes worked. And so, it's either, is it user error or was it the fact that the recipe was just crap? And most of the time it was the latter, but they didn't know that. Nobody knew how to use the equipment. The instructors didn't know how to use the equipment. And if we didn't know how to use the equipment and the product suffered, grades got docked. Nobody did great in the program, but our whole thing was, at the end of the day, when you graduate and you go, nobody's going to give a crap about what your grade was. But as long as you come out of it with, the knowledge and the mindset of something doesn't work, you just try and try again. That was, I think the only class that really sealed the deal for me. We had an R&D class in the entire program, one R&D class. And it was the exact same thing I do. Paper concept, develop it, from the ground up. And then by the end of the class, which was only, I think it was 12 weeks or 15 weeks later, by the end of it, you had to have a prototype, you had to have nutritionals, you had to have suppliers set up for every component of it. You had to have a co-man set up and lined up. So literally we could have investors come in, and if they liked your presentation, they should be able to pick it up and then go make it and go sell it.
Wow.
It had to
That's
be
rad.
a sellable item in 15 weeks. And my God, knowing what I know now, that is not realistic at all. What they asked us to do was insane. But I mean, that class, that one sealed the deal for me because the sky's the limit. You just have this little thing and you can go any direction to get to that end result that's on the paper. And that was just the coolest thing because it's all a puzzle. right? And
Right.
I'm a nerd. I love puzzles. I do them at home all the time. And so like that's the fun part for me is the pieces are all there. You just got to put them in order and figure out how to make it work.
Right.
Nice. Well, that's fantastic. This has been a lot of fun. I really love hearing you talk about R&D and your process and the level of passion that you have about it. It's been infectious. This has been really, really cool. Thank you so much.
I agree.
I loved it. I love talking about what I do, but I never get to do it in this type of things. My first podcast. So thank you for inviting me. I was a little nervous coming in. Like, I don't know what to expect. Like, I
Yeah.
watch podcasts. I listen to them on my way in, but I don't know what to expect going in. But no, this was a
Usually we
blast.
just sit here and stare at each other and it's just awkward silence. And Bryce has to come in and be like, you guys can ask a question.
Well, that's because Luke's always talking. He doesn't let us get a word in edgewise. He's like, oh, well, when I was at the CIA, I did this, and the CIA, I did that. We're just like, okay, we're just going to let Luke go again. You know,
Robert likes to give me a hard time for going to the CIA. I think he's just jealous.
Well, now he knows too.
Yeah.
Luke, your skin is glowing with that blue background,
You know,
by the way.
it's
It is a nice
interesting.
contrast.
It almost feels like it could be a green screen, like
Kind of, yeah. Oh, it says we solve. I had
I
no
have been
idea what it said
wondering that
behind
this
there.
entire time. What is that last word? I've been like trying to like, what could all the different options be?
I thought like, should I set up like this, like over here?
No.
And so
No,
you
no,
can read it,
no.
but then it's
no.
like,
It's a good like reveal at the end.
Yeah. Oh, that's what
Yeah.
Ignite does.
Like,
Got
that's
it.
what it is.
I've been wondering this whole time.
all my questions have been answered now.
Well, I thought that was a really great episode.
Yeah, absolutely.
Can't wait to be able to see her kitchen more of like the window and what it looks like outside there.
Uh-huh.
It's so beautiful. It was really cool learning more about like an R&D type chef does for like a company like that from start to finish of like building a product, trying different things and finding that flavor and then bringing it to them and then bringing it to the food scientists. Like I should have asked how long does that take? Because like I feel like it takes
Right.
quite a while. Dang it. Messed up there.
Yeah. Well, she was talking about during the program, right? They had a 15-week project. And
Right. And she's like, that's too fast.
Yeah. So, I mean, I know from my own experiences, like some of these things can take years to develop, right?
Yeah.
Some of them come together quickly, but yeah, they take a long time. I was super impressed with her. Like, I thought she was really, really good, but like what was like almost like every time she spoke, you could just feel like how excited she is to be doing what she's doing. Right. And I think
yeah,
like,
there's truly a passion there.
yeah, I mean, how many times, have you come across somebody that went to school, did that thing, and then is doing the thing they went to school for somewhat, right? At least in the same somewhat field. And they're just like, yeah, I mean, it becomes a job, right? And there's not, the passion is covered up by something else, right? And they're tired of it and whatever. But I mean, there was none of that. Like, I mean, and I love that so much about, how much she really loves what she's doing and how much that probably translates into the things that she's making, right? I mean, I'm excited. I'm gonna go to the gas station and try to find some of these like what was like the Cineritos or whatever they were, like something.
Burrito Cinna. And then I want to find that chili cheese dog burrito thing.
Oh yeah.
My mouth is like watering.
I'm down.
When she was talking
Yeah,
about
I'm thinking
that.
about it.
Just eating 5 or 6 down the road on the I-5.
Yeah, Kaylah's wickedly smart, and it's interesting how I've met a lot of R&D chefs, but through her experiences getting to where she is now, she's a lot different than a lot of R&D chefs because she understands the marketing, she understands the promotion, she understands how the other departments fit in as this,
right.
And she knows how to navigate around or through or with all of those other people and all the other things that you have to do instead of just being locked up in her kitchen and saying, I did my job.
Yeah. I also really liked how she was designing the kitchen for people and like was like, I want that window. I want people to feel like welcome when they come in here. And like, even when she like talked about the accounting department, like I want them to come in here and be like excited too. And like have a good time in the kitchen. Like I thought
be
that
part
was
of the
really
process,
cool.
right?
Yeah.
Well, she thought through all the steps, right? And then even like future steps. And that's,
Yeah.
that's like
huge.
second level. Like that's next level shit. Like people don't think past what they're currently thinking about very often. Right. I mean, chefs, in general, I mean, I think like they have a menu in mind, they have this, they want to do a certain thing, and they're like, okay, I'm going to think through all the equipment I need, where it needs to be, who's going to be doing what and what stations and whatever. But I mean, she's thinking through, the next, like she said, what's happening in 10 years from now. Right. I mean, like that's awesome. Like that alone is inspiring to hear somebody even have the foresight to want to plan that far away. I think that was really cool.
There's an architect, I don't remember his name or anything about it, but he built a library, and it was a beautiful library. Everything great was done it, but then it slowly started to sink because he didn't think of the weight of the books over time would make it collapse more. So exactly like what you're talking about. Is that crazy?
Yeah.
It was on How I Met Your Mother. I watched the episode last night. That's the only way I know about it.
So it's totally true.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It is true, Luke. That show is very factual.
All right, dude. You got to take us out.
Oh, do I do the spin? Like, what do you want me to do? Hey, don't forget to click and subscribe. Whee! That was perfect. That was great.
That was so great.
Right, I'll try. Gotta unlock my wheels. Don't forget to click and subscribe. That's pretty good.
There you go. I think that might be your best one yet.